Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as he does on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
So since last week, we've had a few pretty stellar performances. As we were recording, it started with Ja Morant going off for 50 plus. Since LeBron has done it, Tatum did it yesterday, right? Yeah, he had 50 plus.
He did, yeah.
He actually broke the record for most 50-point games in a Celtic uniform. I think he broke Larry Bird's record. So yeah, pretty good week of basketball, but
good for him.
Yeah, so I figure we can start out with. Well, actually, I'll let you start because I feel like I've been driving the the horse for or the what is it? Let's say driving the car, whatever. I've been pushing this.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a full week of basketball since we last spoke, and I think I was hanging out and watching one of the games, and I thought about the Atlanta Hawks a little bit, and just kind of how far they've regressed, I guess, from last season. They're one game below 500 right now.
Yep. They're currently, I mean, like in win percentage, tied. Yeah, but they're tied for 8th in the play-in. They're tied with the Hornets and Nets, so I don't know what to make of that. They're a game behind in both the win and loss columns. They haven't played.
What's their strength of schedule on Tankathon?
Let's take a gander. But they do have 2 games, so compared to those other 2 teams, it'll just be something to monitor, especially for the Nets. But
they're 29th in strength of schedule.
It seems like unless the Cavs drop drastically, they're definitely going to be a play-in team. So it's just a question of where they land from 7 to 10. I'd be kind of surprised if Washington cashes them. Like I think that it's pretty much a lock now. They're going to be a play-in team, but who knows?
Sure.
They're currently 2 games up on Washington. Who
I think they'll be okay.
Just got Kristaps back.
Yeah, but the Hawks have the second easiest schedule moving forward.
Wow.
So 19 games left.
Even if you say you win 11 of those, you're probably safe.
Yeah, and like the Brooklyn Nets, who are ahead of them, played an extra 2 games, and so the Charlotte Hornets, who are ahead of them. So they have a whole bunch of games that they can catch up with, and their point differential is a positive, which kind of leads you to believe that they'll be moving up in the standings.
So here, that's kind of the thing I was going to say is you look at where they started this season, and it was very bad. What they're doing is oddly reminiscent of last season, where they're getting hot in the second half. They're kind of starting to click. You don't necessarily have the same injury excuse that you had last season or the change of head coach, but still, I mean, you saw where it took them last year. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they beat good teams in the process. Well, the Knicks are fine, but they beat the Sixers, who I would say everyone would say was a good team. Yeah.
A little bit of a Ben Simmons choking there, but
yeah, but that happens. I mean, that, you look at any series and that happens.
And you talk about how they started the season slow. You're right. They were 4-3, and then they dropped 6 straight, but then they won 6 straight. They won 7 straight. So they've been streaky. There are times when they lose like 5 or 6 in a row, and there are times when they win like 5 or 6 in a row. There's no big consistency. If you get
hot at the right time, like they're doing right now, Luke, and starting to kind of move their way on up, they're about to hit 500. I'm assuming, as you just said, with their easy schedule. And if they get the right matchup in the play-in, I don't know. Like it feels like it could be like they should be able to squeak their way into the playoffs. And now I don't want to necessarily count out any of the other teams, but like Brooklyn to me feels like a play-in lock. Like if they are still in the play-in, they'll get out of it and make the playoffs. But the other 3, the Raptors, the Hornets, and the
just
Hawks.
Gets back.
Right. I mean, KD just got back. Kyrie was playing. They're going to get Ben Simmons. It feels like they're going to be good enough to win at least one of those playing games. No?
I think the Raptors are a play-in lock just because I think the teams currently in the play-in and the playoffs in the East are the teams that are going to be in the play-in and the playoffs in the East.
I totally agree.
I don't think the Wizards are going to move up. And unfortunately, I don't think the Knicks are going to move up either.
The Knicks better move down. So, if I was in charge, they would not move up. Oh my God, I'm on a half game of improvement.
Why? Because you want Jaden Ivey?
I want Ivy pretty bad. Oh, I mean, I want anyone. I just want a better, because even if they don't end up drafting it, like a better pick is a resource you could trade if you decide you don't want one of those young guys. But
I wanna talk a little bit about the Knicks smaller lineup they ran yesterday against the Clippers, but I want to finish this Hawks discussion
yeah, let's
first and
stay
kind
let's
of
stay here and then we'll pivot. Um,
um
no, I
yeah. So
agree
I
with
like
you. I think the teams we're seeing in there are definitely locks. It's a question of the position, and that's why you know I don't think any of those 7 to 10 are going to vault the Cavs. The Cavs have a 3-game lead on Toronto between the 6 and the 7 spot. And then obviously from there it trickles down. It's almost like it's almost 6 games on Charlotte, Brooklyn, and Atlanta. I don't think they can catch them in 19, 20 games, whatever it is.
I think I think if the Brooklyn Nets play their absolute best basketball, the Toronto Raptors play their absolute best basketball, I think they can catch the Cavs. And that's if the Cavs struggle a little bit, drop a couple games here and drop a couple games there. But that's unlikely, right? Darius Garland is a candidate for most improved. You got Evan Mobley, who's been playing really great. He's probably going to end up with Rookie of the Year unless Josh Giddey really makes a push for it. But the way the Hawks, Nets, and Hornets are kind of set up, it's more of like, do you want to play 2 playing games or do you want to play 1 playing game, right? And so, like the Hawks were such a promising team, they could definitely end up moving up. But I think the Hornets are a good team and are probably on similar footing as the Hawks. And obviously, the Brooklyn Nets have underperformed without KD, Kyrie in and out of the lineup, and Ben Simmons is supposed to come back sometime after Thursday when they play the Philadelphia 76ers.
When he's suddenly healthy at 10:30 at night. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I don't blame him for skipping out on that game, but
I do. I do. Here's the thing. Like, I get it. It's obviously hard to join a new team and like fit in right away. And so maybe you're a little nervous about how it's going to look. Fine.
Right.
It's not like he couldn't have come back. They haven't had like the most difficult schedule. He could have came back when KD came back, got a couple games under. It's not like that's his first game as a net. Like he could have taken a little time to practice a little bit, get into shape.
Sure.
And like he would have been fine. He would have been fine. It seems like he's clearly dodging them. And especially depending on when they roll him out after that game, if it's like 2 games after, you're going to tell me that made all the difference in conditioning and his back is suddenly better? Like, no, absolutely not.
I mean,
2 games?
Rolling him out against a weaker New York team or even like the league's worst Orlando Magic would be a better idea than rolling him out against a place where he feels uncomfortable, against a team that's looking to win games, and there are guys on the Philadelphia 76ers roster who want to come for him, who want to embarrass him, who want to make him feel bad, right? So, like, if you think about the development of him on the roster,
see, here's my thing with that. Shouldn't he want to embarrass them? Shouldn't he want to go out there and be like, yeah, you picked the wrong guy. I'm the one. Like, you guys turned on me. F you. I'm legit. That's how I look at it.
He should, but I think it's clear now that Ben Simmons is not that type of person. I don't think he has a killer instinct. And that could have also been a little bit telling. My roommate and I were talking about some of the guys who were drafted high in the draft and they were on teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament, like a Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz, right? So, like, here's Ben Simmons, and he's supposed to go number 1 overall. He's supposed to change the way the franchise works and stuff like that. But, like, he couldn't even lead LSU to an NCAA tournament bid. He didn't even have to win in the first round. He didn't even make the tournament with them, and he's supposed to be the number 1 pick. And like might want to talk about like, oh, well, that LSU roster was talentless. I'm sure they had other guys who got NBA looks solely because Ben Simmons was getting NBA looks, and that draws a lot of attention. Similar, like Purdue has Jaden Ivey right now. There's a lot of guys on our roster who would have never got as much NBA hype around them if it wasn't for Jaden Ivey really playing and attracting scouts to our games. People like Sasha Stefanovic, who nobody knows, for some reason he's getting like 2nd round hype all of a sudden, right? Like there are people coming to the game and scouting him. He's like 6'5", he's unathletic, he shoots threes, like we've had guys like that in the past, and even the ones who are good are like struggling in and out. So, when you have a guy like Ben Simmons who gets drafted 1st overall and you expect a lot out of him, I feel like you're putting a really high expectation on him because he's never he's supposed to be our guy. He didn't prove it in college that he could be that guy. And I think we as fans need to start to understand that Ben Simmons is not that guy. He's like a second or third option on a team.
But that's the thing. That's exactly what he would be right now. I'm expecting him to be what he was in Philly just for the Nets. He doesn't have to be anything more. Just literally go out there and be him. And so that's why, like,
sure,
because it's a perfect compliment to what they're doing on that team right now. So like, that's where I guess my disconnect is, and like my confusion of like, it's not like we're asking him to go out there and be the guy. You have Kevin Durant, you have Kyrie, who are both going to be playing. Like, what am I missing here? All you have to go is play defense, push pace, pass the ball.
I don't know. Would we be
dunk
upset
it every once in a while? Like,
would we be upset if like Tobias Harris decided to set out a couple more games to get back healthy?
But that's the thing. Like, is it to get back healthy? Do you really buy that?
It doesn't matter.
I think that's all it is.
Danny Green said it when he first got traded. He was like, I don't think he's going to play against us on the 10th. And Danny Green was right. Like,
I don't know. It's frustrating to me. It's very frustrating. And also just as a fan, like, yeah, I want him to play. I want to see that. I think it would be an unbelievable
He's a good player.
It's a prime, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's on national TV on Thursday.
It's on TNT on Thursday.
Yeah. For every fan of the NBA, it would be amazing if he played.
Okay, but they're on ESPN against Dallas. They're on NBA TV versus Utah. ESPN against Memphis.
Not the
NBA
same.
TV Miami. TNT versus Milwaukee. NBA TV versus Atlanta. ESPN against New York at the Garden.
Yeah, but F that. We suck and we want to lose that game. I don't care about that. I care about
Julius
him
Randle,
playing
Ben Simmons
in Philly.
matchup.
That's why. All right, to turn it back to the Hawks. The thing I'm hoping for is, and again, I don't want to speculate, but let's say for argument's sake, the Sixers keep the 2 seed. I know they're tied with the Bucks right now, but they have the tiebreaker. Let's say for argument's sake, they keep the 2.
Yeah.
If Brooklyn wins outright the play-in tournament, guess who they're playing in Philly?
They could win outright. The play-in is 7 versus 8. Winner of that is the 7th seed, and then 8 versus the winner of 9 versus 10. So the Brooklyn Nets are sitting in 9th right now, have to move up at least one spot in the standings.
Right. And
then they have to win that first game. That would be great. I would love a 4-game series, especially because it'll be in Philadelphia. That means Kyrie is able to play 4 games, or he could just get vaccinated and play all 7. But
yeah, right, exactly.
Actually, I don't think he has time anymore because you need a couple weeks between shots.
The second dose, the booster, maybe. I don't know what the rule is, but yeah.
I just think he has to be 2 shots deep.
They also might change. I don't know what they're going to do. It seems like everything's been evolving, so they might end up like changing some rules to get him to play. But for the time being, operating on what we know, he can't play.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
But yes,
the series would be great.
If you're Brooklyn, though, intuitively, you're not giving you need to win. You're going to try and get yourself into that like 7 versus 8 game, and you're going to try to win it because that gives you, in theory, the best chance to go win the championship and not get sent home. If you say you get into that 7 or 8 game and you lose, fine, then we have another chance. But if you miss that 7 or 8 game, you only have 1 game. You have to win twice.
Would you rather be the 8 seed and play the Miami Heat, or would you rather be the 7 seed and play the Philadelphia 76ers?
It's a very hard question because I think both of those teams are tough. And
if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I'd much rather play the Miami Heat.
You would?
Yeah.
I still think there are holes on that Philly team. And I think there are holes on the Heat team.
I don't care about the holes. It's like I don't think I'm going to get anything out of Ben Simmons if we play Philadelphia. And
I guess, right. You're looking at your personnel.
And Embiid would be fired up.
Also,
Embiid would hit his...
Embiid would dominate
Embiid would dominate anybody.
He would dominate anyone, but I mean, again, it's been the problem with the Nets for a long time. Their centers aren't great.
Who do they have at center? Andre Drummond.
Is that that's probably who you're going to have to start against him?
That's the matchup. Yeah.
Or you put Claxton on him, but that feels like a bad idea.
No, Claxton's
start
cheap.
Blake Griffin at the 5. Like, that's not great.
Andre Drummond's the matchup. And there's a history between Drummond and Embiid with this whole I'm in your head, free real estate type thing. I remember when Drummond was in Detroit and they got into some type of fight just because Embiid's being Embiid, he's being a troll and stuff.
Which is also why it's hilarious that Drummond had to back him up for the beginning of the season. It's just like, everything about their relationship is very funny, and it would be a fun matchup.
I think the best part about the offseason was when Drummond signed with the Sixers and they had that photo of Embiid, and he's like looking like,
yeah, but that's, I don't know. I guess I don't know what the preferred matchup is, because even if you look at the Heat, like that's not a cakewalk. And realistically,
no.
I could see the Heat beating the Nets in less than 7.
I mean, Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, all those guys are switchable. All of them are tall. All of them are long.
And
Tyler Hero off the bench. Right. They have Dwayne Dedmon, who's played well, Markieff Morris, who's still out. And they have a lot of guys who just kind of play a role, like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin. Not like stunningly great players, but if you think about like your 8th, 9th, 10th guys off the bench, they do a fantastic job for that, right? Like,
you're also omitting the fact that Oladipo's coming back and he's going to play off the bench.
Oladipo is coming back.
Yeah, am I expecting a ton? No. But at the same time, if you can come out there off the bench and be like a serviceable bench player, role player, like even if it's just while he's like getting himself back, if you can score like 8 points a game or something like that, that's legitimate. That's a big help.
So, I mean, usually his past couple of seasons, he's been averaging like 25 and 5. If you could come back and do half of that, if you could do 10, 2 and 2,
right?
I think that'd be great. And
that's all they need.
It's like,
and he's also just adds versatility.
Like, if he adds 10, 2 and 2, and then some nights he just gives you something where he's on and he gives you something like, look at that great shot he hit, or wow, that was a great pass, or something like that. If he can add like an extra wrinkle into the X factor, because he was an all-star, right? And you expect him to bring an all-star mentality to your team, and he's probably completely bought into the culture there. So I'm sure he's...
And that's the reason I don't think the Nets would want to play the Heat, is strictly because those Spoelstra coach teams are machines. Everyone knows their role and they excel at it. And they do such a good job. It's almost, I mean, I don't want to like directly compare it because it's not quite the same. It feels very similar to the way the Spurs were with Popovich all those years, where it was like, yeah, you had your leader, but at the same time, like everyone knew what they were supposed to do. Like they all kind of fit their mold and they did it well. It's kind of like the Warriors now, like with what Steve Kerr is doing. Obviously, I don't want to use those like Durant era teams.
It's like the Phoenix Suns right now. No Paul, no Booker, but they're playing great basketball.
And they're still finding ways to win. Exactly.
They're 7.
And that's the thing with that Heat team. It's like, yeah, they might not have that same star power that the Sixers have. And like, I just don't know that you want to play them. Like, I guess it is kind of just like a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario where like, yeah, all right, one's worse than the next and we're just got to figure it out. But I think you need to play for the 7.
The Heat don't have any guaranteed superstars, but they have a whole bunch of guys on the roster who on any given night can score 30.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero, Bam, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, if he comes back and is healthy, could easily all go for 30 on you.
Yeah.
If Duncan Robinson gets hot, like if he's like 7 for 8 from 3, like you're not winning that game.
No. So, and that's the thing. Like, I don't know that's I know obviously it's easy to speculate. I think things do go up in the air a little bit too. If, let's say for argument's sake, the Sixers are not the 2 and it's the Milwaukee Bucks, like,
sure,
who would you rather play there? Like, it's not automatic. I think any of those top 3 teams are so far ahead of the other teams that you can possibly get matched up against that I really do think it's just like you gotta brace for whatever, and you can't really even necessarily play like we're gonna try and get the 7 or 8 or lobby around like that, so we want to miss Milwaukee, so we're gonna try and do this. Like, I don't think it's a guarantee. I don't think it's like the West where realistically you're trying to avoid the Suns would be my perception of the West landscape. I don't think anyone else is like that threatening as much as the Suns are.
I want to see what Golden State looks like when Draymond comes back, because they're in a little bit of a lull right now, 2-8 in their last 10. Draymond comes back in the next week or so, things will change.
So let's switch up to the West then. I want to look at this while you're talking about that, because
you talked about the Suns a little bit. Did you watch the Bucks Suns game yesterday?
I watched some of it. I didn't get to watch to the end. I heard it was like a little controversial, but
I mean, obviously
some tough whistles here or there, but
It's how the game gets called.
It's
Obviously,
part of the game.
No Paul, no Booker, but I thought the Bucks looked really good. Giannis fouled out, but Middleton finished the game with 44. Drew Holiday was like 0 for 7 in the first half or something like that, and then out of nowhere scored 15 in the fourth.
Yeah.
So the Bucks kind of scared me a little bit, and I thought the Suns looked good, especially without their two best players. But obviously,
so I watched them. I watched them play the Knicks over the weekend. When it was
that's the Cam Johnson game winner, right?
Right. And so I have all my issues with the Knicks in general, but one thing that stood out was kind of what we were talking about before was the way they're playing. It's just like they are, you don't even need to watch the game. You just need to see them before the game, whether in the tunnel dancing or like singing with mops on the court. That team loves that team. They're like, you can tell like they are such like a cohesive unit, and like there's no, like it's my time, I need this. Like they're clearly all in it together. And it shows because when you're missing your two best players, your guards, who should be like the focal point of your offense, who kind of create everything, and you're still able to go out there and either not only just win games, but compete in games like they did against the Bucks. Like, to me, they're the scariest team in the NBA right now. Like, I know they have the best record, and like, sure, you can kind of, say, oh, maybe it's the Heat, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Warriors. No, like you look at what they're doing without their two best guys. No other team looks like this without their two best guys. Like, I think they are truly through and through, like just the scariest team you could come face to face with in the playoffs. So I think if you're a Western Conference playing team, you're really hoping to get to 7, because you absolutely don't want to see the Suns, especially not in the first round. Like if you're, for example, realistically, I guess it is kind of lining up where it's going to be Timberwolves Clippers in that 7-8 game.
Yeah.
You want to win it. You definitely don't want to fall into that 9-10 range or, end up losing that first game and have to go in to play the Suns.
Right.
Because I would much rather play Golden State. And yeah, you're right. You want to see what they look like with Draymond. Maybe it's Memphis at the 2. Memphis is right there. They're tied for the number 2. So I would much rather end up the 7 in the West. Whereas you don't see that in the East. The East kind of catch you.
East is, I feel a lot of people are pretty even in the East. I think if you're the Heat, Sixers, or Bucks, you have a chance. Obviously, if the Brooklyn Nets were healthy and playing good basketball, and there wasn't all this dysfunction with James Harden and stuff, I think they'd also be up there. In the West, it's very clear cut who's good and who's not.
Yeah, definitely. The only weird one
is the Nuggets.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say the only weird one, but yes, the Nuggets. The Nuggets are the one that comes to mind because they're about to get healthy, and like they've been. I don't want to even just say treading water. They're 12 games over 500. But
I think if I'm the Grizzlies at 3, I want the 2 seed because I don't want to see the Nuggets in the first round.
Oh, definitely. I think that's more than fair. I think the other thing is that the Mavericks, who we talked about, you brought up, I think a couple weeks ago, whenever we talked about them.
I think it was last week.
Yeah. They're hot right now. And it seems like, hot. And look, I'll be the first to admit it. I was kind of like shitting on them after the Dinwiddie trade and Bertans, but Dinwiddie, I mean,
Dinwiddie's been good. Dinwiddie's been great.
He just, what did he have yesterday? He had a ton.
36.
Yeah,
36
something like that.
Day. I don't remember which day it was. But I think the Washington Wizards are a weird organization. I think it's very hard for a lot of people to find rhythm there. So, hold on. Let me get
I'm trying to pull up the Dinwiddie game. Let me see the game logs.
It was Saturday, March 5th. He had 36 points against the Kings. They won by 1. And I remember turning that game on and being like, oh, Luka's playing. And then realizing that Luka's not playing. And I turned the game off immediately.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to watch that garbage. And and Dinwiddie went for 36 and they won. So
and so, if he does kind of start to get into a rhythm, and like I know I was definitely quick to judge because he did have I don't know. I feel like in Washington, it was pretty much like his team because it's not like Beal was playing a ton. Like it was kind of centered around him, that offense. So like I'm kind of surprised he didn't look good. But maybe I guess, I was just discrediting how long it does take to come back from an injury and like really look like yourself. So maybe he is finding it. And if he is, we've all seen what Luka can do in the playoffs. I think the
Yes.
Clippers are all too familiar. And so I don't think you want them either. So I think that variety there in that 5 or 6 range with the Mavericks and Nuggets,
Well,
ay.
so in the West, you have the Suns, who are clear cut,
Yes.
great. The Warriors with Draymond are very dangerous and could potentially make a run. You have the Lakers, you can never count LeBron out.
I mean, 56.
Yeah. Three through 5. Memphis, Utah, and Dallas. We talked about Dallas last week, so I won't go deep into it, but I think they're doing a good job with this roster. I think they have some pieces that are definitely valuable. I just think they obviously still have some holes off the bench, and I think they're playing good defense, but I still feel that they need better defenders and they need a center. Like they awfully need a center.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Utah, I can never. I saw
You can't.
an article or video.
I can believe in them. I can believe in them. I don't think
Donovan Mitchell.
Couldn't you see them getting to the conference finals this year? You can't.
I could, and like we say that every year. I think they play they play a good brand of basketball for the regular season, but when it comes to the postseason, people are going to give you so many different looks that it's going to make you hard to run that same scheme that you're doing.
It doesn't really change. It's pretty much the same thing, game in, game
out.
And
their offense is fine, right? If they're going to run like pick and roll with Gobert and Mitchell, it'll work. And Conley to give Mitchell breaks. You have Jordan Clarkson and you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's shown some flashes here and there through his young career. My problem is like you play the Clippers in the second round or first round or whatever it is you play them as, or you play another team who can go small like the Golden State Warriors or like the Denver Nuggets. Like Nikola Jokic has been known to Gobert problems just because he can step out, he can post up things like that. So like I could see it with the right breaks if they're able to play a small ball brand of basketball, I could see them going far. It's just I'm concerned about their ability to play small ball.
I think
like even now with
more
Gobert
than valid.
out, there's still
Gobert gets played off the court every year in the playoffs.
He does, and even with Gobert out right now, right, this would be a great time to start playing people like Rudy Gay or Eric Pascal at center. But instead, they're playing Hassan Whiteside, and they have a guy out of Kansas. He's like a rookie or second-year player, Udoka Azubuike. I can't say his name. Yeah, Azubuike. He's, again, just like another 7-footer. And don't get me wrong, it's been working for them. It's great. But, like, Gobert, Whiteside, and Azubuike are all going to get played off the floor in the playoffs.
Yeah, for like 100%. And it happens every year, which is why, I guess I agree. But that said, they are good enough. Like, they have the firepower to win playoff games, especially if they get the right draw. And then, and I'll say this, it's not specific to them. It's more any team. If you get to the conference final, anyone could really pull that off. Look at the Bucks.
It's a 7-game series.
I think so. I think especially we've seen Donovan Mitchell, what he can do scoring in the playoffs. Like give him like a big stage, he could easily go make it count.
If it's Jazz Sun in the conference finals, I think that bodes well for the Jazz. And that's just because the Suns are going to continue to play Ayton, and that allows you to leave Gobert on the floor. And it's not like Ayton's stepping out to the 3-point line and knocking down a 3. So
right, but that's what I mean. If you get the right
you play
draw.
Golden State, if you're playing the Phoenix Suns, right? Like it really depends. They're matched up against the Mavericks right now, who could 100% play Gobert off the floor. And let's say they win that first round against the Mavericks. They play Golden State or Memphis next, and I don't think Memphis is going to move on. You can talk about Memphis
if they're the 4-5, they'd get the Suns. That would be their second round because it would be 1-4. So it would be them. And then you never know. Like that's what I mean. So, and again, obviously a lot can change, but you just never know. That I don't know.
You never know. Yeah.
I
can't get behind him. I really can't get behind the Jazz.
I like Donovan Mitchell so much that I can believe it.
It's not that I don't like Donovan Mitchell. It's that
I don't like him.
Rudy
You're
Gobert.
A hater. You're a Donovan Mitchell hater, and I know it.
I don't. Okay, we can go back to that. I know Mike always gives me crap for it. Where like I don't like small guards, right? Like, and that is kind of true. Like I think Donovan Mitchell's a great player, but like when you really think about best players on a team to win championships, you kind of think about a guy who's like 6'6" to 6'10", you know, and can play every position. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell can play every position.
I don't know. Allen Iverson led a team to the championship.
Did they win?
No, but
exactly.
I don't know. Jason Kidd got there twice. Like I'm trying to think of guards that led teams there.
Jason Kidd got there twice, but he won one with Dirk?
He won one with Dirk. Oh, so he technically got there 3 times. He got there twice with the Nets. Let me think.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of other like lead guards or smaller guys.
Steve Nash never made it.
Nash never got there. God, yeah. I mean, but you're right. Generally, you need a bigger guy, and then the smaller player is your second option.
Okay. Last year, Giannis. The year before, LeBron, Kawhi.
Could you say Devin Booker? LeBron. But I guess Devin Booker's what, 6'6"? He probably falls.
He is 6'6". There you go.
Yeah.
Golden State Warriors. I guess that's like the last one. Steph, smaller guard. Spurs, they have Kawhi, they have Tim Duncan. LeBron James again. LeBron James, Dirk, Kobe, Paul Pierce. Spurs again.
Yeah.
Miami, Dwayne Wade, but Dwayne Wade's 6'4". It's bigger. He definitely plays bigger than his. And Donovan Mitchell is one of those guys who kind of
he's a smaller version. Yeah,
6'1", 6'2", but he plays as if he's like a 6'4", 6'5" kind of guy.
Donovan Mitchell's only that tall. He's not like 6'4".
No,
I'm looking this up.
No. I know he's shorter.
He's 6'1". Wow.
He's 6'1", 215. He's and he takes advantage of that. I said I saw that video of Donovan Mitchell and how he's the most prolific, like per 100 possessions scorer in the playoffs ever, and that's just because he's so good at leveraging his size. He's not bigger or stronger than most people, but he understands how to get around that disadvantage of being a little bit shorter, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I like the last West team we can talk about is the Grizzlies, who they're starting Zaire Williams at small forward, and I don't think they have enough. I think they've had a great regular season, but I kind of group them in with the Hawks, what they did last year, where the Hawks moved up in the standings and then, had a great playoffs and then kind of fizzled out. The West is a whole different animal. They're going to play the Denver Nuggets in the first round, and if the Denver Nuggets are healthy, I think the Denver Nuggets could win that series easily.
Right.
So.
That's the difference between the East and the West, and obviously outside of the Nets, kind of hanging into the bottom. I do think the clear top teams are better than the clear bottom teams. Whereas in the West, it's very spread out. Where it's like, okay, any of these teams, other than the Suns, I think any of these teams can beat any of these teams. So, and like that extends. Like, would it shock me if? Actually, I can't say that. I think after the Nuggets. So I think if you get any of those play-in teams, with the exception of maybe the Lakers, I don't think they're beating anyone. The Lakers, just obviously, I won't doubt LeBron and Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I'll doubt Anthony Davis all day. I will never doubt LeBron.
I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and it was talking about how the big three of theirs, LeBron, and I'll even air quote that big three of Westbrook, LeBron, and Davis, has only played like, I think 8 games like combined like minutes, 8 games together all season. At this point in the season, they've only played 8 total games together. That's really low. And yeah, maybe you don't want them all playing together, but like, I don't know. As much as of a failed experiment as this is and was, like, that's still tough when you really don't have the opportunity to get into a rhythm. Like, sure, maybe they could have figured stuff out. I don't know if they necessarily would have. It sounds like there's all sorts of fights between Westbrook and the coaches and whatever about him taking a different role, which he should have done. But like, you never know. If they were all out there, maybe it would look a little different. It doesn't, but that's why I don't know. If they get the right team, I mean, they just beat the Warriors over the weekend.
Yeah.
So, and like I think they could definitely beat
in the Warriors.
In the play-in, I think they could beat. Yeah, they did.
That was
Draymond.
LeBron. Yeah, LeBron going for 56 to beat the Warriors by like 7 points.
a win's a win, and like, yeah, playoff
Is
LeBron
LeBron
could
going for
activate.
50 every night?
He might. He's done it before, but yeah, no.
Is
Probably
LeBron
not.
going for 50 every? Is LeBron going for 50 every game
I
while being
hope.
guarded by
I'd love
Draymond
it.
Green?
I would love it.
Uh,
No, but look, if you look at the play in the West, like I just don't think I think I would take the Lakers to beat the Timberwolves. Would you not?
mhm.
So like, and that's
Yeah,
also contingent on them passing the Clippers. But like,
sure.
would I take them to beat the Clippers if Paul George and Kawhi don't come back? Yeah.
Yeah.
Would I take
Unless
them to
Reggie
beat?
Jackson wants to keep doing Reggie Jackson things, but
Yeah, well, exactly. Although they just got smoked by the Knicks yesterday, so you never know.
yeah.
And that's why, especially with like a motivated Lakers team to at least make the playoffs, yeah, I would take them.
Mhm.
And then you look at the Pelicans, Pelicans are surging. Like they look pretty good, but I would still take the Lakers over them. You know, like I don't know. And then you never know. You never know on the draw. And as we just said, any of those teams in the West can kind of beat any of those teams in the West. They have 20 games. They figure it out. They get a rotation. They get like an identity. Why not? You know, I don't necessarily believe it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it did end up happening. So that's my take on the Western Conference.
I have this thing about pace of play.
Mm-hmm.
I think teams that play a faster pace are generally worse than teams that play a slower pace.
I think it depends on your personnel, but I think especially in the playoffs that comes to fruition. Like
You need to be able to play both paces, right? You need to be able to run a half court offense, but you need to be able to score in transition. But like here I'm looking at the teams pace,
right.
Teams by pace. Houston Rockets 1, Charlotte Hornets, Minnesota Timberwolves, San Antonio Spurs, Los Angeles Lakers, Milwaukee Bucks, Sacramento Kings, Memphis Grizzlies, Phoenix Suns, Orlando Magic. Those are your top 10. And out of those
teams are bad.
A lot of those teams are really bad. The Bucks obviously play a fast pace because they have Giannis, who runs down the court very fast and gets a lot of easy buckets. But they have Chris Middleton, who can play slow. The Lakers, who play a really fast pace, sure, they have LeBron, who can play slow, but like, I just don't do I trust their half court offense? And that's my
not with Westbrook on the court. Absolutely not.
So I mean, if you have Westbrook, Dwight Howard, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Trevor Ariza on the floor together, do you trust that?
Well, that's because Carmelo Anthony's not on the court. So our one true king is not playing.
Remove. let's bump Ariza down to the center spot. Oh, we're bumping Ariza.
Oh well, I guess you could. You could bump AD to center, and then yeah,
right. But let's bump AD to center. We'll put Melo in at power forward. Then we got LeBron, Westbrook, and Monk, like Ariza or Monk to fill out the rest. I still I don't believe they have a half court set. They could post up AD, but I'm not confident in posting up AD.
No, but that's the thing. Like I think if you take Westbrook out of the equation, you can do more. And so, you could run more 2-man game. You can do that sort of thing. And
right, so
just have another spot up shooter. But since Westbrook isn't that, you can't.
You have Austin Reeves, Malik Monk, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Anthony Davis on the floor together. You trust that more?
Definitely. Which is weird to say, but yeah, I do.
Like per 100 possessions, is that lineup beating teams in the West? That's I don't know.
That's the thing. No.
Like Austin Reeves and Malik Monk are going to get cooked.
Yeah, probably. But then don't you figure Anthony Davis and LeBron James are going to do their share of cooking? Like that's, and I don't know. I just can't doubt LeBron. I can't.
Sure.
I don't know. I definitely am a little more, I don't want to say optimistic because I don't believe in them. I think they're toast. Like their season's kind of over. But if things go right in these last 20 games and they can kind of right the ship, why not?
Sure.
I don't know. I definitely can't count them out.
I would have liked to see them be high in the Western Conference standings. I would have liked to see LeBron be an MVP candidate. But I want to know I want to know what was the collective thinking behind trading for Westbrook and who pulled the trigger on it.
I mean, it sounded like LeBron and Davis pushed for it. And so, as much as I mean, you're seeing all this finger pointing happening there with the front office and them and whatever.
Yeah.
But all the reports suggested that that's what happened. Is LeBron and Anthony Davis wanted Westbrook, and they kind of made the Lakers do it. I mean,
Which I find to be like sad almost because
reap what you sow. Yeah, I mean, yikes, not great.
Wouldn't you have much rather had Kyle Lowry? Why not push for Kyle Lowry?
I mean, they could have had Lowry. They could have had even just the Buddy Hield package.
True.
They could have had so much else.
The fact that they chose THT over Alex Caruso
alone is horrible.
Baffling.
Yeah, terrible. And like that decision, I don't think you can put on LeBron. Like that seems more of like a Pelinka, Kurt Rambis type decision.
Maybe.
But then if you flip the script there and you say, all right, say LeBron was in there saying, no, we ought to keep Caruso. They would have kept him. Don't you figure?
Yeah.
They would have kept him if LeBron is saying,
would have had
this
to.
guy. Yeah. So like LeBron must not have been advocating for it.
Yeah. Know your roster, know your role. Again, I feel like we talk about this a lot where like, if you think about the bubble roster, I think that was the best Lakers roster they've had while LeBron's been on the team.
Yeah, definitely. But if you do look at generally what's happened with his teams, and like obviously the Kyrie situation changes things in Cleveland.
Yeah.
They start off a little slow. Look at his first year in LA. They start to get hot and win. Look at what happened in LA. Look at what happened in Miami. Look at what happened in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Then it starts to fizzle because they trade away assets and things like that. And it's harder to surround him with a winning team. Cleveland is the only one where I'm like, okay, that's maybe not necessarily as true.
The only reason why they started slow in Cleveland was because Kyrie got injured in the first game of the finals and Kelly Olynyk dislocated Kevin Love's shoulder in the second round or whatever.
And
they definitely would have beat that Warriors team.
On the back end of that, you have Kyrie demanding a trade and the Warriors getting Kevin Durant. So, like, yeah, I can give that. Cleveland is a little bit different. But you look at Miami, it did kind of follow that. That's what's happening here. So, I don't know. Maybe
I thought Miami through and through was pretty consistent. I think every year they had a similar roster that was viable.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, there's a reason they went to 4 straight finals.
Right. And he was only there for 4 years.
Yeah.
It's tough when you run into a Spurs team loaded with legends.
But there's not much. I mean, it happens. You lose sometimes. I
even think like some of the Miami Heat teams kind of got a little better as time went on.
I mean, yeah, I would say like their peak was that I want to say the second championship where they beat, but maybe not that Spurs one.
Maybe when they beat the Thunder, they still had some.
When they beat the Thunder, probably they were at their best. Because then, I mean, Wade did start to fall off. Bosh started to fall off.
I think Wade had some injury problems. And I think that made that difficult.
Yeah.
But I mean, Miami added guys over time. Like Ray Allen.
The Mike Millers of the world that they had. Yeah.
Right. I think that, I mean, I think at the beginning, I think it was a little disorganized that first year, but
yeah,
as time went on, I think, but the Lakers, I thought the first year in LA was tough.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of train wrecks, the Sacramento Kings, 16 straight losing seasons. Now I'm just recapping stuff that's happened in the past week. Clinched 16 straight losing seasons.
Why
did they make a trade to win now? Why did they trade for Sabonis? What does that really accomplish?
I don't even think they make all these moves to win now. But I don't think a Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox roster gets you anywhere meaningful.
I saw something that had the same win percentage, and granted it's a much smaller sample size with Sabonis as they did before. So good job. Good job, Kings.
Yeah, I mean,
very good job.
I don't think De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis makes you better than the Timberwolves. If Zion was back, I don't think you're better than the Pelicans.
No.
And you think about the other 6 teams right now that are playoff eligible, I don't think you're better than any of them. Right. No. So that leaves you at best 9th
Yeah.
And that's if the Blazers aren't playing well. That's if the Lakers aren't playing well. That's if the Clippers aren't playing well, right?
There's a lot
Clippers
of
are about to get
ifs.
Kawhi and Paul George back. So I don't even think they're and like the Spurs are going to continue to get better. The Thunder will continue to get better. I just like so stupid.
No, and you're just gonna have to hope, and I don't think it's possible, but you're just gonna have to hope that somehow. And granted, he's looked good. He's averaging like 28, 6, and 6 in like since
Yeah.
he's come back. De'Aaron Fox. You got to hope that he jumps and becomes that
Mhm.
like dominant all-star, like perennial all-star. You got to hope Sabonis gets back to being like a regular all-star. And then I don't know, hope to God that Davion Mitchell is good, and just like some of these other guys. I don't know. Like I don't know what the plan is or was. Getting rid of Halliburton made no sense.
No sense.
So I don't know. Like that is as bad as the Lakers are. That is worse.
They've got shooters.
That is more of
And
a train wreck.
I think part of the other problem is like some of the guys they traded for, like Justin Holiday and Dante DiVincenzo, are they going to stay in Sacramento long term, especially if they're not winning? Like, is Rashawn Holmes going to be there when his contract's
No,
up? Like,
no, but also think about that. Those are general, like, I feel like, what do they call them? Like journeymen who just like travel the league and find, whatever team needs, say whatever position or like stretch wing,
for sure.
like a big, that just go wherever the money is and bounce
But
around.
like retaining those guys and trying to build something special is important.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work.
Like,
I don't think like Harrison Barnes is not going to be there after the season. I'd be surprised, right? He's expiring or has one more year left.
I'm not 100% sure.
But that's what I mean. Like, I just don't think any of those guys that are currently on the roster, other than Fox and Sabonis, are long-term, truly long-term locks on that team.
Yeah, okay. So like looking at the Phoenix Suns roster here, like they've retained guys over time,
right? Which I think gets back to what we were talking about before. Like that's why they're a very cohesive unit, and everyone seems to be like best buds on the team. So
right.
there's definitely something to be said about continuity.
Right. If you're not keeping guys on the roster, and it's even some of those role players. Like if you look at Golden State and some of the role players they had on the roster, like they develop into your system. They understand how to play with players who are coming in, especially guys who are stars, right? It's like, oh, this is the way we've been playing basketball. And now it's just a little bit easier because this guy's really good and he's playing next to me.
Right.
Right. Some of those like finals teams with the Warriors, like Sean Livingston had been on the roster for a long time. Festus Ezeli, right. These people were with the team with Steph Curry. It wasn't like they were like in and out picking up role players. There were definitely guys like that, but they had grown together. They'd been a very cohesive unit. Whereas like Kings, they bring in Sabonis, they bring in Fox, like Harrison Barnes, probably, who knows? But like there are guys, Dante DiVincenzo, Davion Mitchell will be there for a long time just because he's a rookie. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No
direction.
No, and that's exactly it. They're in no man's land. They don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to win now, but you don't necessarily have a ton of win now pieces. You have two. That's about it. Harrison Barnes, I guess, could be on the right team, a good role player, but like you don't have much to go out there and win a ton of games right now.
I think there are three guys on their roster that could be on a championship team and be productive on a championship team. Harrison Barnes, Domantas Sabonis, and De'Aaron Fox could all be on a championship team at some point as a high-value role player or a starter.
I'm going to counter that with one extra is DiVincenzo, who does he count? But he was on the Bucks last year, but not during the championship run.
I think he makes a difference. He's a good shooter. He can play make a little bit. I definitely think he is of value to a championship level team.
That was my one.
But after that, they don't have. It's so.
Yeah, not
either
great.
Be stinking trash, garbage heap, or like be good, and they're neither. They need to draft better. They need
they're gonna have a good pick though. You look at their team; they are currently sitting in the 6th spot. Maybe they win a couple more games. Let's say worst case scenario, they have the 8th pick. You're gonna get someone solid. You
You're
know,
gonna get someone solid, but
let's say they get a Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin.
yeah.
It's a great fit on that team.
But
So, and that's if they fall. You know, they
I'm
could
actually not
get
so sure.
you could get
I don't
Shaden
like.
Sharp out of Kentucky. You could get AJ Griffin out of Duke. Like there's this draft is weirdly big, or at least like wing to forward heavy. You're gonna get someone who fits alongside those two that you built around.
Sure.
So maybe I don't know.
I think. I think that. I mean, they have to make the right pick this year if they want to win now. It has to be someone who's ready to contribute. It has to be a first team rookie, all rookie.
I mean,
I could
best
definitely
case
see them
scenario
like
for them is honestly just with what they just did is you win the lottery and you trade the pick for someone disgruntled who wants to get out, and you hope
yeah.
that like I don't know, maybe I don't know why they would in this case, but maybe the Thunder are ready to move on from like SGA, and you want to go SGA and De'Aaron Fox with Sabonis. Team could be pretty good. Weird, it's a weird combo.
I'm not so big on De'Aaron Fox. I think maybe that's my issue.
Either am I. He's not a good enough shooter.
He's not a good enough shooter. I relate him a lot to like a.
It's John Wall over again.
Yeah, it's John Wall or like a Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly so sure how well he meshes with other people.
No, because he kind of needs the ball in his hand to be good.
Right, which is like you see it. You see it with John Wall, right? Like John Wall, and you see it with Westbrook, right? Like
yeah,
he has to be a number one option. That's the issue. Right. He has to be the number one option. When he fails to be as good as a number one option needs to be, your team is bad.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's what's about to happen to them.
Like, how different do you think this team would be if they had Lonzo instead of Sabonis?
Still bad.
But at least you have room for someone to come in and be a number one option.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So I think it's whatever this
Lonzo
next
is much
step
more scalable.
Yeah, but whatever this next step is where we're really going to see if De'Aaron Fox can do that off-ball play. If he can play as more of like a slasher when he is off-ball rather than like a spot-up shooter, then maybe. That's going to take a lot on a Kings organization with like very little identity and like stability to create. So like they just fired their head coach. Like, who are they going to hire next? Like, I just don't know what their long-term plan is there. Who are they going to bring in who's ready to handle these egos? And you have two guys who, as you said, are kind of on that level of being like, I don't know, top dogs, I will say, air quote that too. But Sabonis has been an all-star and De'Aaron Fox maybe at some point is in his career. How are you going to manage that? You know, and whatever third piece you bring in. So I don't know. It's a very, very delicate situation there. And I could see it blowing up sooner than later.
What if the all league, all NBA? I mean, realistically, you need an all NBA player on your team to be great. Yeah. Is De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis ever a top 15 player in the NBA?
So I don't want to say no, because I've learned my lesson there. Like, Look at Julius Randle. He was last year. Granted, he had no help really on that roster last year. He was kind of carrying them, but he did make it there. So I don't want to say that they can't, even if it is for a fluky season where they play out of their mind. But like, realistically, no, they're not. Neither of them will. Maybe De'Aaron Fox does in the same way that like Westbrook did those years. But like, no, realistically, no, I don't think so. So they need to find a third option who's going to come in and be the leader. And that's very hard to do.
They need a Jason Tatum or like a...
Oh, God, he's going nowhere. After that performance on national TV against the Nets, he's a Celtic. Until he demands out, he's a Celtic.
Yeah, I don't think Jason Tatum is going anywhere. No. But they need a type of player like that. They need like a 6'8" to 6'10" shooter, shot creator.
Pretty much every team needs that.
I mean, every team could use one of those, but that's the only way the Kings get good at this point.
Yes, exactly. They need that wing, which is why this draft is weirdly good for them. The problem is, after committing to like this long term or this like win now approach, drafting someone to be that guy is probably not the way to get that guy who's going to help you win now, you know? So yeah, it's a good fit on paper, but it doesn't match your timeline. If you hadn't made the trade before, it would.
if they draft like a Keegan Murray out of Iowa, who's the Big Ten leading scorer,
Right.
that might work. But even then, like, I don't know.
It's
Best case scenario, they get Paulo.
Paulo's a good fit.
Jabari
but then,
Smith.
Yeah, but even then, like, they're still kind of projects. Like, I don't know. Like, as
Yeah,
good
I think
as
it would be. I don't think if you're Jabari
has,
Smith or Paulo Banchero, I don't think you want to get drafted by the Kings. There's no patience there. There's no.
I also just think, like, as good as Mobley has been, he's in a great situation, but he's still raw. Like, there's no denying. Like, he is a rookie.
100%.
He is not.
But there's so much room for him to grow. You kind of know.
Right.
Like, this season's been great. He's rookie of the year, maybe. But there's still space for him to grow. It's not like they're just going to, Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen, and they, play him less minutes. He's still going to start. He's still going to play a large role. Like, he might not ever be the Kevin Durant that he could have been, or the Giannis type of player he could have been. But he will be an all-star. He will be a all-NBA player potentially.
See, the thing that sticks out there is you're saying will be, and that's projecting how far into the future. The Kings don't have that same luxury of drafting a guy who's kind of going to fit that mold. I would say some of the guys at the top of this draft are going to be like that stretch big, kind of more fluid playing. They don't have the luxury to wait for them to develop into being an all-star. They need it now. That's what they committed to. They committed to becoming a playoff threat, becoming which I don't know if they are at this point. I don't know that if they draft someone, they are. I just don't. So 16 straight losing seasons and likely counting, if you ask me. So
if you look at the Cavs roster, Evan Mobley 20, Isaac Okoro 21, Darius Garland, who's their other star, 22, Jarrett Allen 23, Colin Sexton 23. They have Lauri Markkanen, who's 24. So much time to grow together.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, the Kings, they just don't have that.
The timelines are all strange. It's so
the youngest player on their roster is 22, Neemias Queta. Can't say his name. Yeah. And then Davion Mitchell, who's 23. But after that, like, nobody on your roster shows a huge amount of potential and is young. Even like Sabonis,
everyone's like 25
he's 25.
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. These guys are entering their primes in the next year or two. Whereas like Cavs, their best players, they still have like 4 years.
Right. And so that's exactly. That's the difference there. And so I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. But yikes. I have the luxury and the privilege of staying up to watch them tonight because it's Knicks Kings tonight. So I'm going to be up. Starts 10:30 Eastern. So I will be unfortunately staying up to watch a garbage game. Yeah.
If we very quickly touch with the Knicks smaller lineup.
How are you going to make this quick, Luke? That is a trap because I can talk for hours about this.
I think it was great that Cam Reddish played a ton of minutes.
Yes.
I think there was something on Twitter that
he played 25. Yeah, or something like that, I think, yesterday.
Tibbs wanted to sub Randall back in, and Randall was like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I had fallen asleep last night, so I didn't see that interaction. I did like the old man falling asleep watching something, but
I do that every day basically.
Yeah. But, no, so I didn't see that interaction myself, but yeah, I mean, I think Tibbs needs to be saved from himself because he doesn't want to experiment. That lineup with Deuce McBride, who's hardly ever played, quickly RJ and Cam, and then sprinkle in whichever center you want, was responsible for their largest runs of the game. They went on like a 10-0 and like a 16-0 run in 2 different stints when those 4 were on.
RJ.
Why have they not been doing that? And then you also include Obi, who's hurt. Like, they could go small and throw in Randall if you want to go in small. You have so many options to be versatile on this team, and Thibodeau refuses.
Yeah. I'm very concerned with Obi. I really think you have to play him at center. I think he's a small ball center.
Sure, fine. Right. He shouldn't be sitting in the corner, which is, again...
He's more of a lineup guy.
It all comes down to the way Tom Thibodeau has been coaching. And it's a very antiquated system, and he's not allowing his... We have such a good group of switchable, like, multi-positional players. You know, you look at even guys who are hurt right now. You think of Grimes, you think of Obi, you think of, and then obviously the guys who are healthy and who are responsible for that run yesterday. You have a ton of guys who can play a bunch of positions. You could play Randall at the 5 if you wanted against some teams. You have a ton of versatility, and you're not utilizing it because you want to play point Alec Burks 35 minutes a game. Like, none of it makes sense. And so I think
Randall's best position is center as well. So it's like, you don't want to play Randall at center, but if you played him at center, your team would probably be a little bit better.
But here's the thing. I think you play Randall at the 4 and Obi at the 5. It's something that I've been like screaming to get all season, and they don't do it.
Sure.
Like, you could be dynamic, and it doesn't require that much adjustment. And so, especially now down the stretch with 20 games left in a lost season, when you're 5.5 games out of the play-in, like, experiment. And like, even when guys start getting healthy, when Taj and Nerlens get healthy, don't play them. They don't need to play. For what reason? What purpose do they serve playing big minutes right now? What purpose does Randall serve playing 38 minutes a game right now? None. Drop those minutes. Let other guys play. Exactly like he said, run a small ball lineup. It works.
Sure.
Experiment. Right. See what you can bring with you in the next season instead of just banging your head against the wall, doing the things that we know don't work, like playing Burks, Fournier, Randall, and whatever, like 38 minutes a game. We know it doesn't work. I'm okay with
Fournier. I just wish he wouldn't play as many minutes as he does.
Right. That's the thing. I think it's having that ability to change.
Burks and Fournier should be splitting more minutes. And I think, Quickly plays a lot, but
got to play more. He's playing less than 20 minutes a game.
And Rose needs to come back because I think Rose is the only other viable option outside of Quickly that can play point guard.
See, that's where you lose me. He shouldn't come back. What's the point? Again, just like I said about Taj and Nerlens, the only difference with him is, he should be on the team next year. The other two, probably not. They shouldn't be next season. Rose absolutely should, which is why you should prioritize his health. Like, fine, just shut him down for the season. Like, ankle injuries and weird injuries, like, what's the point of him playing let's say he comes back in 2 weeks. What's the point of him playing the last 10 games of the season? What does that accomplish other than take playing time from what I just said in experimenting and seeing what you have, seeing who you want to trade, who you want to extend? They have 3 guys who they're up to expend in RJ, Cam, and Mitchell Robinson. Like, give them as many different looks as possible to see what you could possibly build next season. And so run small ball action. Give Cam 25 minutes a game. Give Quickly 25 minutes a game. Let Deuce McBride play. When Grimes gets healthy again, let him play another 20 to 30 minutes a game. Like, and it doesn't have to be every night, but sprinkle that in. Mix everything up. Like, Fournier and Burks are still going to get minutes. Capable of that? Absolutely not. He's not.
Do you think Thibodeau's a little bit on the hot seat or no?
He should be. I literally, if it were up to me, he would have been gone yesterday. He should not be the coach anymore. I hated him last season. And I'll go on record. I was not happy with the hire when they made it. Everyone was like blinded by the fact that they were winning games last year in a shortened season, no fans in the stand, with a fluke Randall year where he just got really hot. Everyone's regressed since. Everyone had career years. Burks had career year. Noel had a career year. Randall had a career year. All of these guys had just magnificent years, and then they receded to the mean or regressed to the mean, and now you're getting what I expected, which is Thibodeau's inability to adapt, playing these guys who he thinks are like these amazing players based on last season, huge minutes, and they're losing. We've lost 17 of our last 20 or whatever it is. Like, oh my God. Like, to me, I look at this situation, I'm like, it's nothing new. We were clamoring for Elfrid Payton to get taken out of the lineup last year, and he didn't do it until in the playoffs. Dog, we got to figure these things out during the regular season. You have to experiment. You have to change. You can't, he's such a dinosaur, and his stubbornness is killing the team. He's got to go. He's got to be gone. I'm so tired of it. Anyone else at this point. I literally don't care who it is. Even if fine.
You do care who it is a little bit.
Fire Tibbs now with 20 games left. Get a look at Johnny Bryant, the assistant, who Emmanuel quickly just Instagram storied, calling him his dog or whatever.
Sure.
Try new things. I'm so tired of Thibodeau. It's the reason he got fired from 2 other jobs. You know you're getting with him. It's not working now. It's not going to work tomorrow.
He was on. It was
Chicago and Minnesota. Yeah, both. Just forget it. And again, you're looking at when he's in Minnesota with Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns, like, yeah, you had good guys carry it to a low playoff seed and you lose early and then you stink. People start getting hurt and complaining about the minutes and not agreeing with them. The same thing's happening now. It's just setting the stage for it. I'm tired of it. I'm so done with him. He's got to go. Literally, I can't handle it.
I'd love to see like a Kenny Atkinson.
That's who I wanted them to hire before 2 years ago.
Or Terry Stotts. I just think you need someone who can look at your roster and understand that you don't coach your roster to a scheme. You coach a scheme to your roster.
Right. Exactly. You are
Does that
only,
make sense?
yeah, you have to make best of what you have. You're given a hand. You got to make the best of that hand. And so play to their strengths.
Your coach should be more of
your
coach should be a strategist.
Yes, exactly. And he is just such a dinosaur. I know I keep saying that, but that's what he is. Like, his unwillingness to adapt is what's going to get him extinct from the NBA. He's never going to coach again. Who's going to hire him after this? If he gets fired from a third team, who's going to hire him? No one. Maybe as an assistant. Maybe.
I could see him as an assistant. I think he brings the culture to a team.
Is he going to do that? He's essentially a defensive coordinator. That's what he should be. But then you look at this Knicks team and the defense sucks. He is so bad. I'm done. Luke, you said this could be a quick discussion. I could go off all night about this. I'm tired of it. I am. I really, frankly, he's got to go. It's the worst.
Yeah, I think I think I could see him as an assistant somewhere, just kind of bring like a mindset or a culture to the. I do like the way he kind of manages the team. I'm not so sure if Cam Reddish is getting more minutes because of injuries. I think he is, but yeah. I think the fact that he's playing, or like the fact that I feel he's had to earn a little bit of his minutes, I think is important.
Sure.
I like that culture, but I agree with you a little bit where it's tiring to see the same thing over and over and over again. You want to see something new. You want to see adaptation. You want to see.
How many fourth quarter leads do I need to see the starting unit blow when he puts the same group in? His subs are so literally to a T. Like at every point in every single game, you see guys sub in and out. He's a robot. Mm-hmm. He's like, this is what we're doing. We're going to keep doing it. And it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. So like,
I think the predictability also is easy to scheme against. You can kind of say like, oh, like these are the subs he's going to make. And this is how he's going to play with these guys on the floor. And opposing coaches are just like, then we're going to do this. Easy, done.
Exactly. It's so infuriating to watch.
You want a coach like Ty Lue, who on the fly is like, look at this. This is the new way we're going to play this because that's exactly. It doesn't happen like that.
No, it's just got to end, and that's why. I mean, there are reports that came out that the front office is frustrated with him, and that Worldwide West wants him, is pointing the finger at him. Which, like, sure, there's always going to be that between a front office and a coach when teams are underperforming. Everyone's going to blame the other one, and like that happens. But I have eyes. I've watched these games. Like I've been watching the Knicks for years. No, it's Thibodeau. He's the problem. Sure, like there are mistakes with the construction of the roster, but like this team is better than their record. They are. Tibbs just mismanaged it for the majority of the season, and there's no real like. The only reason it seems like it's getting a little better right now is because players are hurt, and it looks like, okay, fine, he's playing the kids a little bit more. I don't know if that's going to happen. That might not stay the rest of the way. So who knows? But I'm tired of it. And now I have to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning to watch them play the freaking Kings tonight.
No, you'll fall asleep during the game because it'll be a slow game.
I'm going to fall asleep in the first quarter. I guarantee it. That 10:30 start is killer. Oh, God. Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah, we've been on here for a while, Luke. Let's wrap this up after my rant.
It was a good rant.
Yeah,
I laughed the whole.
Yeah, because Luke, you're catching me where I'm just like, this guy. I'm so tired of it. 2 years of Tibbs I hit my breaking point. I'm done.
Sure.
Yeah, sick of forking me, but yeah. So all right, well, this is the Hoop Troop podcast. Thank you everyone for joining, and tune in next time.